People's Temple. Founded in the United States by Jim Jones, this group began in Indianapolis in 1955 as a Christian congregation that preached racial integration and social welfare. Jones gradually positioned himself as a divine figure, and by the 1970s he had relocated thousands of followers to a remote settlement in Guyana called Jonestown. Conditions there were harsh, and Jones tightened his control through isolation, surveillance, and constant rehearsals of mass suicide, which he called White Nights. When a U.S. congressman visited to investigate complaints from worried relatives, Jones had him murdered at a nearby airstrip. That same night, in November 1978, Jones ordered his followers to drink cyanide-laced punch, and over 900 people died, a third of them children, many forced or coerced. The group recruited largely through promises of community, racial equality, and care for the poor, qualities that made it deeply attractive before the isolation began. People's Temple no longer exists. Jones died alongside his followers, and the few survivors scattered, leaving Jonestown remembered as one of the deadliest cult tragedies in modern history. Aum Shinrikyo. Based in Japan, this cult was founded by Shoko Asahara in 1984, blending elements of Buddhism, Hindu imagery, and apocalyptic prophecy. Asahara convinced followers that the end of the world was near and that only his organization could survive what was coming. Behind the scenes, the group built chemical weapons facilities near Mount Fuji, producing sarin gas capable of mass casualties. In 1995, members released sarin into Tokyo's subway system during the morning rush hour, killing 13 people and injuring thousands more. Authorities later found stockpiles large enough to have killed far more had the attack gone differently. Aum recruited heavily among university students and young professionals, drawing them in with promises of spiritual enlightenment before isolating them within the group's hierarchy. Asahara was executed in 2018. The organization itself still exists in a reduced form under the name Aleph, operating under close government monitoring in Japan. Branch Davidians. Located in Waco, Texas, this group splintered from the Seventh-day Adventist Church and was led from the 1980s onward by David Koresh, who declared himself a final prophet. Koresh taught that the end times were approaching and prepared his community accordingly, stockpiling weapons at their compound, known as Mount Carmel. Reports of child abuse and illegal firearms eventually drew federal attention, and in 1993 a raid attempt led to a deadly shootout, followed by a 51-day siege. The standoff ended when the compound caught fire during a final assault, killing 76 members, including 20 children. Recruitment often came through scripture study groups that gradually pulled members deeper into Koresh's authority and away from outside relationships. The Branch Davidian movement as Koresh shaped it ended with the fire, though a small splinter congregation continues to exist quietly in Texas today. Movement for the Restoration of the Ten Commandments of God. This group formed in Uganda in the 1980s, led by several figures including Credonium Warrand and Joseph Kibwetir, who claimed visions from the Virgin Mary. Followers believed the world would end at the close of the millennium, and when that prophecy failed, internal tension grew. In March 2000, around 700 members gathered inside a church building in the Kanungu district. The doors and windows had been sealed from the outside, and the building was set ablaze, killing nearly everyone inside. Investigators later discovered more bodies buried at other properties linked to the group, suggesting some members had been killed earlier and the fire was used to cover the deaths. The leaders were never found, and it remains unclear whether they died in the fire or escaped. The movement recruited largely from rural, devout Catholic communities, offering followers strict structure and promises of salvation. It does not appear to be active today. Order of the Solar Temple. Founded in Europe in 1984 by Luc Juret and Joseph D. Mambro, this cult mixed New Age spirituality, Templar mythology, and apocalyptic environmental warnings. The leaders convinced followers that dying together in a ritual fire would transport them to a higher plane of existence on another world. In October 1994, 53 members were found dead in Switzerland and Quebec, some by gunshot, some by suffocation, with evidence suggesting that not everyone died willingly. More members died in further incidents over the following years in France, bringing the total close to 70. The group recruited from educated, often wealthy circles in France, Switzerland, and Canada, drawing people in through secretive initiation ceremonies that promised hidden spiritual knowledge. Most reports treat the Order of the Solar Temple as no longer active following these deaths. Heaven's Gate. Based in the United States, this UFO-influenced cult was founded in the 1970s by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, who taught that the human body was merely a vessel and that true believers could ascend to a higher level of existence aboard a spacecraft. The group lived a nomadic, tightly controlled existence for years, supporting itself partly through web design work. In March 1997, believing a spacecraft was trailing the Hale-Bopp comet, 39 members took their own lives in a rented mansion in California, dressing in identical black clothing and new sneakers before ingesting a lethal mixture. Recruitment often happened through public lectures and later through internet outreach, appealing to people searching for meaning beyond conventional life. Heaven's Gate effectively ended with that mass suicide and has no known active membership today. Manson Family. Operating out of California in the late 1960s, this group was led by Charles Manson, a small-time criminal who built a following mostly among young women drawn to his promises of freedom and communal living. Manson preached a coming race war he called Helter Skelter and convinced followers that violence could help trigger it. In August 1969, he directed members to carry out a series of brutal killings, including the murder of actress Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant, along with several others. In total, 9 people were killed across these attacks. Manson recruited through communal living arrangements, drugs, and intense psychological control over young, often vulnerable followers. He died in prison in 2017, and the Manson family no longer exists as an organized group, though several of his followers remain incarcerated. Matamoros cult. Operating in Mexico in the 1980s, this group was led by Adolfo Constanzo, a man who blended elements of Afro-Caribbean religious practice with violent ritual and organized crime. Constanzo convinced his followers, including members of a drug trafficking operation, that human sacrifice would grant them protection and power. The group murdered numerous victims near Matamoros, including an American college student whose disappearance eventually drew police attention to the ranch where remains were discovered. Investigators uncovered evidence of ritualized killings tied directly to the group's criminal activities. Constanzo recruited through his criminal connections, offering followers a mixture of spiritual authority and protection within the drug trade. He died in a standoff with police in 1989, and the group dissolved entirely afterward.